What was the best moment you've seen where the real world hit a spoiled rich kid? I went to a private prep school in a city where a lot of the wealthier families sent their kids. Tuition was insane, but I was there on a scholarship, which meant I was constantly around people who lived a totally different life than I did. Weekend trips to Aspen, drivers who picked them up after school, that kind of thing. I got along with most of them, but there was one guy in particular, I'll call him Carter, who embodied every stereotype about spoiled rich kids. Carter's dad owned the top law firm in the city, huge glass building downtown with his name right on the front. The kind of guy who'd show up in a tailored three-piece suit just to have lunch at the country club. Carter never had to think about consequences. He drove a brand new Range Rover at 16, never did homework but still passed because his family donated a new wing to the school, and he'd brag constantly about how he knew people. One time he told our math teacher, "My dad could get you fired in a day," and somehow didn't get suspended. First time Carter got arrested was for drunk driving. He'd crashed his car into a light pole after a party, blew way over the limit, and tried to argue with the cops about violating his civil rights. His dad sent one of the firm's junior partners to handle it, and Carter showed up to school the next week acting like it was no big deal. Even laughed about how the officer had to call his dad sir. Everyone just rolled their eyes and moved on. It was just Carter being Carter. Second time was worse. He got caught trying to shoplift sunglasses and a designer watch from Nordstrom. His excuse? He was bored and wanted to see if he could get away with it. The store called the police, and when they took him in, he expected the same routine. Call daddy, lawyer shows up, all's forgiven. Only this time, his dad didn't play along. Carter told a few of us about it later. Not in his usual smug tone, but almost quietly. He said he called his dad from the holding cell. It was late at night, probably around 2 a.m., and he fully expected him to say, "I'll handle it," or "Don't talk to anyone until the firm arrives." But instead, his dad answered, listened for maybe 10 seconds, and said, "Well, sorry to hear you got arrested. Good luck," and hung up. No lawyer came. No phone calls were made to the station. No one picked him up. He sat in that cell until Monday morning, 2 full days, because it was a holiday weekend and the arraignment courts were backed up. He had to sleep on the cold bench with a paper blanket, surrounded by guys who didn't care who his father was. Some of them mocked him. One guy even made him clean up the cell toilet. Carter did it without saying a word. When they finally let him out, it wasn't a lawyer waiting. It was his older sister who told him flat out their dad wasn't going to do a thing. He was on his own. After that weekend, Carter changed. Not overnight, but noticeably. He stopped skipping classes, stopped making those entitled comments. He got a job, an actual job, at a local hardware store, said he wanted to earn his own money. Senior year, he applied to regular state schools, not the Ivy League feeder schools everyone expected. When someone asked him about it, he just said, "I need to figure some stuff out." We kept in touch after graduation. He ended up finishing college and eventually did go to law school, but he paid his own way, waited tables, worked at a car wash, even drove Uber for a while. Last I heard, he was clerking for a judge, still not working for his dad. He told me once, years later, that sitting alone in that cell was the first time he realized what life looked like without the safety net. Said he'd never forget the way the door sounded when it locked behind him. That's when the real world showed up.